Hey everyone, I'm Scott with Carrie and Schnauzer Quality Meats in Tripoli, Pennsylvania. Today we are going to prepare for our Thanksgiving meal by brining a turkey. We like to brine our turkey usually Sunday or Monday of the Thanksgiving week. We brine it for 24 hours and then we pull it out and we let it sit uncovered in the refrigerator for another 24 hours or 12 hours because it forms a nice like pellicle on the bird and you get really crispy skin when you cook it in the oven. You're not really putting a wet bird in the oven and you're going to get rubbery skin if you do so. So by letting it sit out for a day or 12 hours at least, you get a very nice crispy skin on the bird when you cook it or when you roast it. So first things first, we want to start with the bird. You can get a lot of different turkeys in the grocery store. You want to make sure that if you want to brine, you add your own flavors, add your own salt. You want to make sure you're going with a unsalted or a turkey that hasn't been brined before. And you'll see that a lot of times on the packaging it says pre-brined or soaked in a 2% salt solution. If you plan on brining, you do not want to brine one of those birds. Those birds have already been given salt. They have salt, so if you try brining it, it's just going to make it saltier. So you just want to make sure that the bird you're using has not been pre-brined by the manufacturer or by the turkey butcher or the processor. So what we're using today is Koch's Turkey Farm in Tamako, Pennsylvania. They have a brand of Heirloom bronze turkeys. It's a really great bird. It comes without a brine. It's as raw and as basic as you can get it. It's a great bird. We do sell them in the shop here. We had a few available for the Thanksgiving week. So yeah, we're going to start with this bird. And basically, you just want to clean out the inside, make sure that there's no blood sitting in there, there's no turkey neck or giblets or anything like that. You want to make sure that the cavity is completely hollow and the blood has been washed out. You also want to make sure that the actual bird itself has been wiped off with like a paper towel. Sometimes when you pull it out of the bag, it's still a little icy or bloody. You just want to make sure you're not putting that blood into the brine. It really won't matter. It's just for me, it's just like I prefer not have a clean brine and not really, deal with any of that excess blood in the brine. So once you get the turkey prepared, it's going to go in the brine just like this. It comes out of the bag. A lot of times, the turkey will be trussed with like a plastic truss. You want to actually remove that. We're not going to actually cook. You would never cook with that plastic trussing unit on the bird. So you want to remove that, and then if you have some butcher's twine, you can tie the legs back. Or if you don't want to, you could just leave them as is. Koch's Turkey Farm does a really nice job. They actually truss the bird for you with its own skin, and they really tie it up nicely for you. So, yeah, you could just put it in as you would, but you just want to make sure that plastic trussing unit is off the bird before you brine it, because you don't want to cook it with that. So. Once the bird is prepared, we're going to talk about the brine. When you brine something, the standard ratio is going to be half a cup of sea salt or kosher salt and half a cup of brown sugar or cane sugar or whatever type of sugar you want. You just have to have a sweetener and you have to have your salt. Half a cup of each to 1 gallon of water. Some birds are really big. They're 22 pounds and up. You want to actually double that. So it would be 1 cup of sugar, 1 cup of salt, to 2 gallons of brine. And then you want to talk about the container you're putting in. We're going to do it in a 5-gallon bucket. We have a refrigerator big enough to hold this. Sometimes people don't, so you have to use those the brine bags or just some sort of container that you would completely submerge the bird in. A lot of people have refrigerators in their garage or in their basement. That'd be a great place to brine your bird. But really the big thing here is before you go and spend money on a bird and you get your setup for brine, you want to make sure you actually have a place to put it that's temperature safe, because you need a place big enough to hold a 5-gallon bucket or something at least big enough to hold a bird like of this size. Now we're using a 14-pound bird today, so we're not going to be needing to use more than a gallon of water or a gallon of liquid. So we're going to use the half a cup. We prepared our own brine here. It has half a cup of sea salt, a little bit of sugar, and aromatics. You can get as creative and as fun as you want with your brine. as long as you have the salt and the brown sugar component or the sugar component, because that's really what does the magic. The aromatics add flavor to it, but it's not the point of it. Really, the point is to get that sugar in the meat, the salt in the meat, and when you cook it, it creates like the bird's like super juicy. You're not gonna dry out the bird while you're roasting it. It is a whole bird, so there's like different areas. Like the wings will get cooked up quicker. So the point of brining it really is to make sure that you're not going to dry out the wings. You're not going to dry out the drumstick or the thighs. The breasts are going to stay moist because as you cook it, different areas are going to get crispier. They're going to get cooked before certain areas, and with brining it, you basically prevent drying out that bird while you're cooking it. Now, I will say this: you could still dry out your bird even if you brine it. You really have to cook it properly and use a thermometer. Don't think you're a superhero or you're a great cook. Always use a thermometer. Make sure you're pulling it out when at the proper temperatures. Because if you don't, you could end up with an undercooked bird or an overcooked bird, and brining won't save you at that point. So, for the purpose of this video, we are going to use 1 gallon of water. Now, you want to be able to dissolve the salt, the sugar, and really release those aromatics. So you would start probably with like a half a gallon of water. You would bring it up to a boil on the stove, and then you would dissolve your salt in that, and then you would add it to equal parts ice. So you're not going to be putting your bird in a warm brine, which could be very bad and not food safe. But for us, we're just going to dissolve this brine in some cold water today. I just want to show you basically the process. But if you're going to be doing this, I would take your brine and half a gallon of water. I would boil that up on the stove. I would mix it in, and I would make sure it's dissolved before you add the other part of water or the other half gallon of water to it. Or what you can do is you could do the whole thing on the stove if you have time, and you can put it in your refrigerator and let it come down to temperature, and make sure when you put your bird in, it's completely cold. You do not want to put your bird in a warm brine. Just like I said, not food safe. But for the purpose of this video, we're going to take 2 quarts of water. We're going to put it into our 5-gallon bucket, and then we're going to drop our brine mixture in, and we're going to take our other 2 quarts, drop it in, and then we're going to stir it up and make sure we dissolve it as much as possible. Now, in this 5-gallon bucket, we only have 1 gallon of water in here. It does not look like it is going to cover this bird. It definitely will. So as that is dissolving, I'm going to bring this over and show you that brine. So your brine releases all those aromatics, and you get a very tasty smelling solution. You could put orange peels in there. You could, instead of using 100% water, you could use 1 part water to 1 part apple cider. You can actually get very creative with it. There's a lot of really good recipes online. So you don't have to go with what we just did, but that ratio is a pretty solid ratio, and you're not going to get an oversalted bird. You're not going to get an undersalted bird. It's going to be just right. But again, you could have fun with it. If you want to start with that base of half a cup of sugar, half a cup of salt to 1 gallon of water, you could do that, and then you can get creative. Add peppercorns, add your fresh garlic, add oranges, lemon peels. You really have fun with it. It's the sky's the limit when it comes to brining. So once the brine's mixed up, you basically want to just drop your bird in